everybody, and welcome back to the Reality Kingdom, where we talk all things reality TV or whatever. I am Pharaoh, your host, and I'm joined by our wonderful co-host Lily. How ya doing?
I'm doing great. I just feel like these last 4 episodes really ate down. Like, because this is our first time really getting into the circle, like really getting into her. And the first 4 episodes, I feel like they were a drag, other than, the Spice Girls, they ate down.
Mhm.
But these next 4, I feel like they really brought it. Like, there was a lot of strategy, which I really am here for. It was just a lot of interesting gameplay. It was fun. It was fun to watch.
It was really fun. As you see, we are going to be covering the Circle episodes 5 through 8 or whatever. And we're just going to be diving in and talking about everything that happened within those episodes. Period. So,
Yes.
girl, let's hop right into it. I know that's right. Big bag busting out the Bentley van. And all you bitches, fuck. It is lean. All right. These are the people who we're going to be discussing throughout these episodes. Let's pop it off. So we left off where the Spice Girls were on the verge of either being discovered as Jared or not discovered as all. And we are going to see that we get back. And if Rachel votes for Jared, it's over for the girls. But if she doesn't, then we're good. So we have a suspenseful moment. Da-da-da-da-da. Boom! Rachel votes for Alyssa. Yay! So,
And it just really shows like the iconicness of the Spice Girls, because mind you, Rachel very much so thought Jared was the Spice Girls. But after that one conversation with Rachel, the Spice Girls got that up off their name.
mhm.
They should have stayed in the game. We were so robbed.
They quite literally ate it up easily. But as we see, they are going to now be done playing their part in this game, in this season. And that was it for them, unfortunately. So we have to be done with the Spice Girls. But first, we get that Rachel voted Alyssa instead, because she felt like Alyssa was the catfish. And congratulations, they get $50,000 added on to their total prize. So now the total prize is $150,000 instead of just $50,000. So that's really, really good for them.
Well, no, it was $100,000 and it added $50,000.
So now it's $150,000 instead of $100,000. Boom. So that's great. Good for them. And that's all the Spice Girls were there for. So now the Spice Girls has to talk or go show themselves to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So they decide to go to Alyssa's place. And it's interesting because the Spice Girls think Alyssa is a catfish.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, Alyssa is Alyssa. So they walk in and they're like, "Oh, hey, girl, like it's you." And Alyssa's like, "Oh my god, it's y'all." And they're like, "Oh my god, it's you." So this conversation kind of gets they kind of start talking about the game. And basically they were telling Alyssa, like, they were asking Alyssa, like, "How'd you know it was us? Like, how'd you figure it out?" And Alyssa was like, "Well, I take notes on literally everything. I have notated every single thing. And I noticed that Jared was 28 and I'm 28." And Jared's like, "Oh, I don't remember the 90s and da 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 da." And she was like, "As a 28-year-old, how you don't remember the 90s?" So it basically gave it away from that. And that's what happened. So they kind of started asking Alyssa a little bit more questions and stuff like that. And Alyssa says that she actually has 2 whole pages dedicated to Carol John, because she knows Carol is a catfish. And that's that. She also mentions that she wants to make sure she stays in a lot of small alliances. She doesn't want a big alliance. She's kind of scared of that, but she wants a lot of small alliances. She wants to stick with that. Boom. And then that ends. So that's it for the Spice Girls. Spice Girls are now out of the situation.
The only good part about the season.
Please. So after that, we move along to the rest of the episode. So it's kind of like a reaction or response to everyone's votes for the Spice Girls now. So everyone's kind of talking about how when the chat opens, everyone's kind of talking like ooh, by the way, like Yuling, she says, I feel like I might have like burned a bridge with Rachel by saying Rachel's name because me and Rachel had a good conversation. So she's feeling ooh about that. Nathan slash Alex also feels bad about saying Rachel's name. And Rachel kind of is like, ooh, clearly I got a lot of work to do because if everybody's saying my name, everybody thinks I'm a thing. I need to get to work. So the Spice Girls leaves their final message. And then their final message, they're like, we don't think we're the only catfishes here. And then that's after that, Alyssa kind of is like, I feel like I need to let everybody know that I talked to the Spice Girls. So Alyssa says, I talked to the Spice Girls.
She's a very like calculated player. Like Alyssa is someone who's like, okay, if you're doing this, okay, so maybe I should respond like this. Maybe I should think like this. Like, I feel like as we'll see over the course of this podcast, maybe it didn't work too well. But she's definitely a really, really smart player as we see her, kind of climb the ranks over these next few episodes.
Yes. So after that, we get like a bunch of apologies kind of in the chat. They're kind of all like, ooh, by the way, sorry for accusing you. Ooh, by the way, sorry for accusing you. And then we get like a few confessionals of people saying, maybe Alyssa's a catfish since Alyssa saw the Spice Girls and the Spice Girls said it's a catfish. Clearly, that's going to be a recurring theme that if you're a catfish or if somebody say you did whatever, we get it. So they're thinking Alyssa might be a catfish barely, but kind of whatever. Boom. Then here go Carol John. So John, as Carol, decides that he's going to add Rachel to the girls' chat. So now there's the girls' chat. He adds Rachel to it, and they have a conversation, and they kind of talk, and he's like, I want to bring Rachel in. Rachel's a new girl. Let's kind of like be nice to her. And the girls kind of chat for a little bit about that, and they're like, yeah, Rachel's cute, da 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 da. But it doesn't necessarily seem like they're trying too hard to like link up with Rachel. It wasn't as camaraderized, I feel, as the first girls chat we got.
Exactly. I also think it's because they kind of don't trust Mama Carol that much no more either. That's like true. I just feel like it's so obvious that like there's no way in hell this old ass woman is just gaming this hard. Like I feel like that's what it comes down to. Like it seems really genuine. I feel like maybe in the moment when you're getting a message, this is your first interaction with someone in probably like a few hours, and you're stuck in this room. But after it's over, it definitely could seem like, so why are we having this conversation? What did we talk about? What's being asked or whatever, And literally. In the chat, Mama Carol, she calls out Chrissa a bit. Like my girl was just getting it this entire episode, and then some. Like
she does. And she's kind of like, oh, Chrissa, yeah, I know you suspected me, but it's all good. It is what it is. It is what it is. And Chris is like, ooh. And that was kind of the first hint of like, ooh, now people like feeling a little iffy about Chrissa because now that made Mama Carol kind of feel iffy about Chrissa. They're not gonna be linking up with Chrissa that much no more. So after this, we get to the game, and it's called "Who Do You Think?"
Who do you think?
So who do you think
is spicy?
It's a spicy little thing. So basically, what you do is they're gonna ask you a question, and you have to anonymously vote for the person that you think the question applies to the most, or whatever. So the questions are very, I guess, telling, and it exposes a lot throughout this. So let's just get to the questions and let's talk about what they were saying. Boom. The first question, they start off real simple. They was like, who has the best vibe?
And then so the two, it was like everyone, it was like three people tied with like 2 votes.
Yeah.
And that was Alyssa, Chrissa, Yuling, and then Carol and Frank had 1 vote. And it's like that pretty much made sense because I do feel like Alyssa, Chrissa, Yuling, they're kind of the ones who everyone kind of gravitated towards earlier in the season. So
it made sense. So the next question was, who should speak up more? And girl, Nathan / Alex got 8 up. Nathan / Alex got 3 of the votes, and then Yuling got 2 of the votes. And it makes sense because they spoke about Yuling not being as talkative as she was at first. So it kind of made Nathan.
Yeah, I guess it kind of just made Nathan kind of scared because obviously he's playing as like an 18-year-old boy. he's not 18, but he's young as hell for no reason. And I don't think he all the way even knows that. I don't think he all the way knows how to speak as a younger adult, because I do feel
Mhm.
like every time he speaks as Nathan, it doesn't all the way give this is his actual person, which is
Mhm.
probably why he doesn't speak as much. And I have noticed when he is in conversation, he doesn't give much. He stays very surface level, which I
Yeah.
feel like I think he's thinking, oh, someone that age of this personality type would give surface level, but
Mhm.
it's like surface level all the time. I don't know. So I definitely see why he got speak up more, because it's like, I mean, he doesn't offer anything of substance ever.
At all. Literally at all. So the next question is, and this is the juicy question. It's who's most strategic, and everyone was like, "Woo, that's the question." And it's like, yes, that's the question. So immediately when they asked, I thought that um Carol, John, was probably gonna get answered that because we've seen them being the most strategic.
Yeah.
They literally have been the most strategic up to this point.
And the
So
house has been, they've been starting to catch on to it for a while.
yes, no, literally. Because it's so out of place. Like you said, it's so weird for like an older woman to be doing what they've been doing. So, anyways, Nathan immediately is like, it's probably literally Carol or Alyssa. And I gotta decide which one of them I'm gonna pick. Chrissa thinks it's either Brew or Carol. I thought that was interesting because Chrissa's takes have always been like different than I feel like the majority so far. Because Chrissa caught on to Carol real quick. Chrissa was like
Mm-hmm.
Carol first. And the fact that she said Brew, it's like, ooh, Chris is the first
Mm.
fancy Brew. And I do think Brew's on a downward kind of path now. And it just seems like Chris is kind of catching on to the girls a little fast. But Brew is not strategic.
No,
Um,
at all.
Brew thought it was Frank. I see that because Frank is like very social and he was an influencer and etc.
Yeah, but I just feel like it doesn't come off. Well, personally for me, then it wouldn't have come off as strategic. I think Frank is just more social.
It came off as social, but some people don't know the difference. I could see Brew thinking that's what it meant. That makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Yeah, Brew was not good. Anyways, Alyssa thinks it's Carol, which makes sense because it is Carol. So by the end of it, Carol got 4 of the votes. Woo! And Frank
Four.
got 2 of the votes.
And then
So
Alyssa and Brew got one. I don't know if you said it, but Alex/Nathan voted for Alyssa because he got big beef with Alyssa. He been on Alyssa ass,
he has.
and the thing is, it's crazy because I think I think clearly more strategic players kind of can see other more strategic players, because I feel like
Mm,
Alyssa, she been peeping certain people. The Spice Girls peeped Alyssa, and I think
mm,
Alex peeped Alyssa too. And I think they immediately think, oh, it's a catfish. But Alyssa is weird because she's not a catfish. She's just hella strategic, like one for no reason. Like
mhm.
she's
Very
herself, but she's
calculated.
very calculated as if she is a catfish when really she isn't.
Mhm. Period. So after that, the question was, who do you think is the most trustworthy?
Mm.
Yes, and it kinda showed us as the viewers who is probably gonna link up a bit, and this is kinda where I noticed, I guess, a little bit of subtlety when it comes to, like, lines being drawn to here and there,
Mm-hmm.
because Nathan/Alex says that they think Brew is the most trustworthy, and so it's like, okay, clearly that's who Nathan wants to gravitate towards in the upcoming days. Brew says he thinks it's his girls, which is Yuling and Alyssa, because he has a throuple with them and they have a
Yeah.
triple thing going on at this point. Yulene thinks it's Carol. But it was kind of like I feel bad that Carol just got all the votes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say it was Carol. And
And
Frank
Eulingus.
Krista.
Yeah, Frank thanks Chrissa. But I wanna touch up on that because I feel like we're gonna mention a lot. Like Yuling, like she is definitely, like, I have to use Big Brother terminology, floater down. She
Sure.
is a floater. Like
Mhm.
Farrell mentioned, there's definitely two sides starting to form, and I feel like she's definitely kind of in the middle of both of those sides. I don't know if she sees that or if she's even playing like that, but or even know is aware that she's playing like that. But that's exactly how she's playing, because it's like one moment we'll see her trying to, I feel like trying to make she does certain things to make someone else trust her,
Mhm.
but then totally neglect what the past alliance she just talked to like an hour ago. It's
Literally.
like it's almost like she thinks in the moment, and then as she goes, she just changes. I have no idea.
No, it's very interesting, and we'll just see it as we continue through, honestly. Um, so at the end of it, Carol slash John, Chrissa, and Yuling all get 2 votes. Um, and Alyssa gets none. And they were like, woof. Nobody sees Alyssa as trustworthy, which kind of hindsight 2020, now that I know the end of this series, it kind of makes sense. Because, even though Alyssa wasn't seen as the most threatening or the most strategic, she's the person that people trusted the least. So,
Exactly.
according to what happens later on, it makes sense that in that type of situation, if you're the least trusted, you might be left out. So, the last question, is it the last question? Is who do you think will win?
Yeah.
And that was a good question too, because I would have been scared. Me personally, I thought it was Chrissa, and so did Brew. Brew thought it was either Chrissa or Frank, and that also kind of hints at the new divide that's happening because a lot of the people who are kind of on one side thought that the other side was going to win. So Brew kind of thought that it was going to be Chrissa or Frank who were going to win. Like you said, Nathan has been anti-Alyssa. So Nathan slash Alex thought it was going to be Alyssa.
He literally said, I want to vote Alyssa just to get her targeted.
Yeah, just to get her targeted. Alyssa thinks it's Chrissa, similar to Brew. Brew also thinks it's Chrissa.
And then Frank says he does not want to say Chrissa because he feels like if he says Chrissa, then she could get targeted.
And he doesn't want that to happen.
Which was already freaking happening. Which is so weird because from what we have seen, of course there's a throuple, right? But it's so weird because we have not seen these people get on the same pages, but it's interesting to see how Alyssa and Brew have kind of decided on their own that Chrissa is now the bigger threat, which is really interesting. And then also we'll see how kind of Yuling was kind of. We'll get into it.
Yeah, no, literally. And who else?
That's really it.
That's it. Boom. Oh, and Alyssa purposefully picked Chrissa because she wants everyone to know that Chrissa's a threat. She kind of says like, because everything Alyssa does is really calculated. So she kind of says, I'm picking Chrissa because I think it, but also I want to make sure other people think it too. Or whatever. And that's it. So at the end of it, Carol and Chrissa tie for who people feel will win. Carol, Frank, and Chrissa, they tie for 2. So there's that. That game ends, and then we get into them kind of chatting each other or whatever. So first, Nathan chats Chrissa. And basically Nathan's like, if I can talk to Chrissa and get with Chrissa, then I could probably gain her as an ally because I don't really have allies. So Nathan slash Alex is looking for allies. And so that's why he chats Chrissa. And they have a pretty good conversation. Essentially, they're like, well, we haven't really talked to each other, but now that we're talking, this was cute. This is real cute. This was a vibe or whatever. And maybe in the future we can keep this going. If there's a future.
If there's a future, child.
So, he gives information. One thing Alex does is he likes to try to get information. So every once in a while, he'll give a little information. So he says like, oh, by the way, me and Yuling, we kind of are vibing. We might be flirting a little. And that's how they bond, with Chrissa kind of giving him like, I guess, tips on what to do with the flirting. And he's like, and that's he kind of uses that again later on. So he's kind of trying to use this, I don't know, his relationship with Yuling, and he's really trying to latch on to that to get to Brew, to get to Alyssa. He's really trying to use.
He really just using the fuck out of Yuling.
Yeah, very much so, because he's a catfish and she don't know. Oh my god. So after that, they talk. After their talk, we get Alyssa. And Alyssa is checking in on the throuple because she wants to make sure that her and the throuple are on the same page. So that's Brew and Yuling and herself. So she chats the throuple. And when they chat, they always end up flirting. But this chat also, it's just weird. Like
it's literally just all 3 of them flirting.
It is. But this one got into a little bit of strategy. Because they start talking about how Nathan and Rachel don't trust each other. And they were like, that's interesting. Noted. And then they dive more into the fact that Nathan kind of is talking to all of them. They notice that basically Nathan has flirted with Yuling, and he's talked to Alyssa, and he's trying to get a bromance with Brew, and they kind of all three share that information. So Brew is like,
Yeah. No, can we get into this real quick? Because Brew is high key jealous.
No, right? He really tried to like be real smooth
look,
about it.
And like he says later, like, I do think Nathan's a catfish, but I don't know, something about it gives me he's jealous. He's like,
Yes.
he literally said, I don't need him talking to my women. Like,
And
but
it's kind of weird because it's like, this is a throuple. Like, what is this? And he was like, actually, I think a little bit genuinely, like, he was kind of like, I need to make sure that I talk to him so I can let him know that he needs to not do that.
Because I do think he was feeling Alyssa. I do think he was feeling Yuling. And as we just said, Nathan/Alex has been using Yuling's name to build a relationship with everybody. Literally. So that's really interesting. In this conversation, which is going to come up in another conversation, you says that, you know, he reached out to me, we flirted a bit privately, and Brew was like, because he is not having it. But it's also interesting because I think Brew is playing a pretty, I don't know the game he's trying to give. Like, the people who he say he stressed the most is Mama Carol, Alyssa, and Yuling. And he's trying to pull Nathan in. Yeah. And it's weird because I can't tell if he kind of is like low-key a strategic mastermind, or if he is just kind of a follower, no shade. I don't know. It's like, are you attaching yourself to them so they can keep you safe, or are you actually making shit shake? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a thin line with Brew. He's either not smart at all, no shade, or he's smart and he knows what he's doing. And I feel like I still haven't gotten the full understanding of that even after 8 episodes. So stay tuned. After that conversation, Frank talks to Rachel, and basically Frank is he wants to pull Rachel in because Frank at this moment he has Chrissa and he has Yuling, and he wants to pull in Rachel to his people, you know, people who can be his. So he talks to her, and they have a really, really good conversation, and they really bond kind of fast. And they get real comfortable with each other kind of fast too. They kind of just click. It was weird. They clicked really fast, and the messages were just very deep too. They started talking about Frank's mom and her passing, and how Rachel has been doing what she's been doing for so long. It gets really, really deep, and so they connect really quick and really fast, and they're like, we have each other's back, period. So that's
and then I think this is really just like the start of like Frank's kind of like strategicness as we go forward in these next few episodes, because as we'll get into, you know, he definitely took a big hit in these last few episodes, so he has to rebuild, and I think he does a really good job with it. I kind of wish the show would kind of like, I don't know, force them to tell us where they think who's aligned with who, kind of like, because we never get kind of like idea of, well, who's working with who, or who do I have? Like, we have these random chats everywhere. We have these random, like the throuple and things like that, and Mama Carol got his girl chat, but it's like, we don't know, that there's nothing solidified. Maybe that's just the game. Maybe that's just the game itself. But I just feel like I would definitely be in my room like, okay, I think this person was working with this person, so I definitely need to, you know what I mean? Because Frank obviously knew he needed to pull in Rachel, but I want to know, what was the logic behind that? Is it because you felt like Brew and Alyssa got a thing going, and you know what I mean? It's like,
they didn't really explain it.
And how did you know that you could even go to Rachel? You know what I mean?
Right. They didn't really explain that at all. But I guess to try to kind of clear it up for like to make it easier, for myself, honestly. At this point, it kind of seems like Brew, Alyssa, and Carol/John they like each other a lot. And then Frank, Chrissa, and Rachel, they like each other a lot. And Yuling is in the middle, and Nathan is leaning towards the Brew and them side. So that's
he's leaning towards that side, but he has a great connection with Rachel.
Yeah.
And he has a pretty good connection with he has a good connection with Frank.
He just made a connection with Chrissa. Right now. So it's like Nathan's not Alex isn't necessarily on either side, neither is Yuling. But the other 3 people, like those 3 people, Carol, Brew, and Alyssa, are kind of firmly on that side, and then Chrissa, Rachel, and Frank are kind of firmly on this side. If you wanna organize it in your minds, but there's still social connections throughout and etc. It's
Exactly.
like a fluid game. But just if you want to organize it, that's how I'm gonna do it and move along.
Yeah.
So after that, we get to the ratings finally. Yay! So, it's a lot. First of all, Rachel and Nathan, they're not getting rated, but they are rating. So they're not going to be on the ranking at the end of the day, but they're still going to put in their input and affect the final ranking. So, first of all, we hear that Carol/John wants to put Yuling first. That's his girls. He's with his girls, and this is where we kind of see that Yuling is with everybody. How I said, Yuling is in the middle. Yuling definitely has a lot of directions that she can choose to go, and we will see she chooses all of the directions.
Literally,
she chooses everyone. So Yuling wants to put Alyssa first, which is interesting because later on she does something else. Alyssa wants to put Yuling first, so we see that kind of like Carol and Alyssa, who are kind of leaning towards the same way, both want Yuling to go first. So it's like, oh, Yuling has a lot of allies. Of course, Frank and Chrissa want to put each other first because they are besties. They're final two, essentially. Brew is going to put Carol first /John.
Which I was like, that's why I was just like, and that's what I feel like what makes me look at him like, where are you at strategically? Because
where are you at?
And then, but I guess a lot of people are kind of going with the thing of, I feel weird about Mama Carol, but if they got my back, I got theirs. But it's just like, Mama Carol cannot be trusted. I don't know. Not even because they're a catfish. It's just they're just working this. Like I've been saying this. Like it really don't matter if they're a catfish, but they also are eating this damn game up. Well, I guess not anymore, but
but they were up to this point. They really were. We also see later on. We see that Alyssa is going to put Chrissa last. We see that Chrissa is going to put Carol last. Yuling has Brew kind of towards the bottom, fourth. So that's basically what we get when it comes to commentary with it all. So it's interesting because you kind of see, you see what people are thinking. You see that some people are leaning more towards, putting Chrissa near the bottom, and other people are leaning more towards, oh, maybe I'm putting Carol at the bottom, maybe I'm putting Brew at the bottom, something like that. So then the episode ends, and yes.
It's just crazy how like the game kind of like flips on its head. Like the fact that Chrissa was so well received, she was at the top of the food chain, and because she's at the top of the food chain, people perceived her as running the game and could win it. So now everyone's voting her lower because of the perception that she's loved, but she's not even loved anymore because y'all all don't like her.
Yeah, literally, everyone voted her last.
And think they only don't like her because they liked her and voted her first. It's so random.
Yeah,
but
no, it's literally crazy.
I also will say, I guess we'll get into it when the ranking drops.
So we get into the next episode, and before they get into the rankings, they let them have like a few conversations still after they've already placed in their bets or whatever. So first of all, Rachel does this morning meditation shit. It was real cute, I guess, girl. You do you, hey. But I guess she's just trying to make sure like she is liked by everybody, like in the general sense. So she creates a chat with literally everybody, does a morning meditation, and it's cute. There's a point in the chat where like Alex is pretending to be Nathan, and he says something, and Alyssa's like, okay, give us nothing. You very much so give us nothing. And earlier they had the little Nathan doesn't talk as much, and so now he's talking, but what he's saying is nothing. So it's basically like you're still not talking. So it's like, okay. So Yuling has a chat with Frank and Chrissa, which is interesting.
Yeah, I literally wrote down, you strategic queen. Like
strategic queen.
I'm thinking up until this point, okay, so she is definitely eating this up because as we just discussed, she has the throuple, and now she's creating another throuple, which would definitely give her the most power in the house.
And basically, I feel like this move positioned Yuling in the center of the house. She was already kind of in the center socially, but making this alliance with Frank and Chrissa put her in the center of the house strategically. And no one necessarily saw her as a threat either, I feel, like they're kind of cool with Yuling. So it really centered her in the house, and they all basically, get together and discuss how this is gonna be the three, we finna be the alliance. And Chris is like, yeah, honestly, I had y'all back regardless, without us even being in here. I had y'all back naturally.
And
Yulin was
that's
like, oh yes, I love that.
and that's an important message because that's going to come up later
It
on.
is.
It's
Um,
also important to note that you mentioned that she doesn't trust Brew in this conversation. She mentioned she does not trust him, but she does trust Alyssa, which is interesting because Brew definitely trusts her.
yeah.
I think Brew definitely sees her as one of his closest allies. So that's interesting that she doesn't really trust him because I feel like, well, she said he's not giving as much as we give. And she mentioned that earlier in the throuple chat, which I think is kind of true, which is another reason why I'm looking at him like, because I'm like, he doesn't really. He kind of does just go into the chat and they discuss what they've kind of found, and he just sits there. So I can see where she's coming from when she says she doesn't trust him.
Yeah. So her point of making the chat was kind of like, she's like, if I don't trust Brew, I kind of need to find another alliance, and this group would be Q. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Ate that.
Literally ate that. So Brew decides that he wants to talk to Nathan because Nathan has been talking to his girls, and he don't like that. And Brew kind of mentions that, if I'm working with Alyssa and Yulin, and Nathan's gonna work with Alyssa and Yulin, I need to work with Nathan. And I saw the potential of this becoming like a 4 aside, essentially. But
he said, I don't.
He doesn't want them all 4 working together cohesively, but he wants him to work individually with the girls and then also individually in Nathan to control the situation, I guess, which is pretty strategic. But it's just the way he says it does not seem strategic.
And I think it's also. I think there's also still just a bit of jealousy in that. Like, there's no reason if Brew is working with them and you're working with them, and I said Brew, if Nathan's working with them, and we all working together, why can't we just be a 4? And it's because, like, he definitely just do not want him that close to his girls. Okay,
literally. And the entire conversation is literally about Alyssa and Yulin, like literally. So it's giving he was jealous, but it's still interesting because it's kind of pushing the 4 of them together because now they have a bromance going. They talk about the girls, and then the girls are really close, and they're in the throuple, and they both have to flirt with Nathan. So it's like seeming like this could be a thing, but will it?
Basically, Nathan / Alex assume it's gonna be a showman's alliance.
And he gonna get up in that.
Brew think this is his 2 girls and he running the fuck out of them, and Brew is his bottom bitch that he can keep on the side. Alyssa don't give a fuck about none of them bitches, but Yulin. And Yulin don't give a fuck about
none of them bitches, period. Literally. So at this point, Nathan has like or he talks to himself because there is no confession. He talks to himself and he's like, Alyssa running this shit. Because if Alyssa got Brew and Alyssa got Yulin, who Alyssa don't got? And it's like, okay, so he's still clocking Alyssa to this damn day. And that's noted. So they have a challenge now after this. So the challenge is they need to roast each other. Did I pay attention? No. But Lee did. Lee, what happened?
So essentially, they had to write a roast for each other, and then this comedian, I forget her name, Nikki Glosser. Honestly, it does not matter. Never heard of her. No shade. She is going to read their roast.
Yes.
Out to the other player. But that happens after the freaking
after the rating.
So
we don't get it yet. So Carol / John makes a chat with Alyssa, and basically it's giving. Okay, I'm gonna be for real. Let's be frank. It's giving John has a crush on Alyssa, and it's been given John has a crush on Alyssa from the beginning. And the conversation is literally John asking sex advice as Carol, and it's very much so giving. I want to be as subtle as possible, but I also want to, talk about sex with Alyssa because I have a crush on Alyssa. There was no point for this convo.
No, like he literally starts with Alyssa as Mama Carol, and she probably has been picking up on that shit.
No, literally. So Mama Carol is literally flirting with Alyssa, talking about how many people she got sex with, and just we gonna skip it. Then it gets juicy.
Mm-hmm.
Mama Carol tells Alyssa, "Hey, by the way, I've always had your back, especially when I was influencer. I made sure that you were not going anywhere. If you didn't get deja vu, I'll remind you." Carol / John had the same conversation with Yuling right after the first influencer meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Now keep
And,
that there.
and I said that first time, I was like, that is just being way too strategic. There's no
Mhm.
reason to let these people know, hey, I'm the reason why you're here. Because
Mhm.
you're the influencer. You're one of the two people. They know that. You
Mhm.
don't have to come in, hey, just so you know. No, like,
Mhm. And what old lady, like, I don't know, it's not going with the persona either, and that's why people are rating them most strategic and probably gonna win, like, be a little bit more subtle, I fear. And it's cute because he's being strategic and he's trying to be smart, but it's a little bit too much.
mm-hmm.
And as you
But
see,
I will say it works in the moment because after she's like, I can trust Carol after this.
mhm,
Like, clearly
even
they got my
though
back.
even though I'm 90% sure Carol's a fucking catfish and a man flirting with me, I I'm still gonna. This shows me that I can trust him. So strategically, it works. It just kind of, I think what it mostly does is expose the fact that he's catfish, but it doesn't matter. As you see, being a catfish doesn't
and
necessarily matter.
And I thought that too, because like I said, it's not really my first time getting to the show. I was thinking like, does it really matter who's a catfish? Like,
Mhm.
I was thinking like, why does everyone care? Like, you don't get more money if you figure out who's a catfish.
Yeah.
You don't get a prize if you figure out who's a catfish or not. You win the game by getting to the end and being the most liked. So whether
Mhm.
I'm getting there by catfishes or not, I'm getting there. So I wouldn't give a fuck. And Alyssa does not,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, Carol does got Alyssa back down. I mean, it won't
Mhm.
matter towards the end of these episodes, but he got her
Literally.
back.
So after this, Brew girl, I literally wrote
Brew
Brew
is jealous.
private chats, Yuling flirting down. Like it was very much so. I want to fuck you. Like it was very like straightforward
But
flirting.
you know what it was though. Brew heard from Nathan that Nathan
Uh-huh.
was talking, so he had to go assess that. Because mind you, like I said earlier, you in the chat said that Nathan had reached out to her. And then when
Mhm.
he talked to Nathan, Nathan said, well, she reached out to me. So now he
Mhm.
got to go and trust you and see what the real tea
And
is.
see what the tea is. So they have a conversation, and you is a flirt. So you will flirt back really hard too. So basically, they was flirting hard. They had a good, cute conversation. It got a little more deeper than usual. Yulene was like, "Brew is finally like actually being a human, like a real person, and opening up and telling me stuff." So I do feel a little more comfortable. So it's kind of interesting now that I'm reading it. Like we basically just got a combo with Carol and Alyssa. We got a combo with Brew, Alyssa, and Yulene. We got a Brew and Yulene conversation, and we got a Brew and Nathan.
Brew and Nathan.
So it's like all of those, that group of people are all just talking to each other, basically back and forth, like having different conversations within each other. So it makes sense because Frank's not included that, Rachel's not included that, Chris is not included in that, and as you see later on, them three kind of are on a different side of the spectrum when it comes to the game, I guess. After that, the ratings are finally in,
Ooh.
and we get the ratings.
And I was
These
hyped.
were so shocking, bro. Okay, the sixth place rating came up, and it was when they flipped that shit over.
My
I
mouth.
gasped. I audibly.
I
Said,
said,
what?
what?
No, really. Chrissa was sixth place.
Fifth.
I did not fifth. It said 6 on there, and it said 4 was 5. Whatever the fuck. Chris was last, and I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa.
Because my thing is,
yes,
and I guess it makes sense because Carol probably put her low, Brew probably put her low, and Alyssa probably put her low.
yes. So it really makes sense.
And we know Rachel put her low because Rachel's put her low too.
Mm-hmm. As we see, like, all those people who were talking to each other, they're kind of like-minded. They're not going to put any of themselves low. So the only people who can be low is Chrissa. And Rachel can't get voted, mind you, and neither can Nathan. So it didn't leave that many options. They were only rating 5 people. So Chrissa was last, and then there was a tie for 4th between Brew and Mama Carol. third was Frank, and that was impressive because even with all the crosstalk and all the bloop, Frank still got up there top 3.
But that's interesting. I wonder how is Frank still can be so high and Chrissa kind of fell down so low. You think
Yeah, I genuinely just think that
she wasn't even the influence of the first round. Frank was.
She wasn't. I think it has to do with his bond with Rachel because Chrissa had nothing with Rachel, and Rachel put Frank 1. Rachel put Frank number 1.
And she had Chrissa at like 3, I think.
She did have Chrissa at 3 because I wrote it down. And Yuling had Frank high. I think Frank had high ones, and Chrissa didn't have anybody. The only high
she had middle of the road and low. So yeah,
if Chrissa, Rachel, and Yuling put Frank like 1 or 2, that brings him up to 3rd place spot. So I think that's kind of what happened. So then we see that the top 2 are Alyssa and Yuling. So they're going to be the tribunal. What's it called?
The authority, the influencers.
The influencers. So Yuling and what's up his name? Alyssa. Are the influencers. You got me for to say authority, child. The influencers. So they have to decide who's going home. And first of all, Yuling is 1 and Alyssa is 2. Girl.
And I think it's just really important to note, first of all, Alyssa and Yuling, you gotta give them their props here because they ate. They
were at the bottom of the last ranking. Both of them.
Booty hole bottom.
Like the social capital that they to get all the way to the top. I know that's right. They ate
that. And especially Yuling, because like I said, she was part of the throuple. Then she created the other 3 with the blacks. Hell, Brew wanna fuck her, Nathan wanna fuck her, Alyssa her bestie, Frank her bestie. Where's Yuling going?
And Carol is her mama. Like, who get out Yuling?
Who get out Yuling?
So, after that, we get to the roast. What was the roast?
Girl, so Captain Griffin got out. That's not her name, but that's not her name. The woman come in and she's reading out people roast for people. So I'm gonna just name off some of the memorable ones, the ones that matter really. So Chrissa, she writes a roast for Mama Carol. She basically calls her a MILF. Mind you, everyone else is straight crickets, and she's like, girl, no one was impressed by that. And then Frank, his roast was for Chrissa, and he said, basically, you fine, come fuck me. It's like, baby.
Oh my God.
It was not good.
But
I think really the only one that matters, I'm so sorry if y'all care about the other ones. I'm so sorry. But Rachel came in really gagging the girls, right? So essentially, she said something like, look in the mirror and say to yourself every day, I'm not a catfish. My name is Carol, and I'm not a catfish. Gagging the fuck out of John/Carol.
Oh my God.
For no reason. Everyone knows it's her. It's not anonymous. Everyone knows it's her. And then who else did she talk about in hers?
Not watch. I definitely zoomed through that.
It really wasn't relevant. The most relevant thing was that she came from Carol's neck.
I know that's right. And basically, in my mind, that solidified Rachel with Frank and Chrissa, period. It's not really size like far down like that, but very metaphorical size. Moving along. Then we get to the actual blocking. So Alyssa and Yuling are going to go talk and have a discussion about who they're going to block. They cannot block Nathan nor Rachel. So they're only considering 4 people. 4 people.
I literally have written down Alyssa ran the fuck out of this bitch. I'm sorry. Because I do feel like this is where I was like, okay, Yuling, I was so high on you. I'm like, okay, she's doing better in the game. But this is where it started to make a little bit less sense for me because I feel like
all that work you did,
you let it go to waste. Essentially, they're talking about who they can trust and who they kind of want to work with. They agree they trust Brew. Essentially, they agree that they don't want to touch Nathan. Well, they can't touch Nathan.
They can't. They agreed that they don't want to touch Frank. They're kind of like we both like Frank, and all these episodes, Frank and Alyssa clearly have a bond because considering like how the situation is set up, Frank and Alyssa kind of should be going after each other because Alyssa literally just took out Chrissa and Frank is going after Brew and Carol, so
Exactly.
they shouldn't, but they have something. Their social games I feel are clearly good because Alyssa don't want to touch Frank and Frank don't want to touch Alyssa. So
Exactly. And so basically it leaves Mama Carol and Chrissa, which, like I said, I'm not shocked. And this is why I say Alyssa ran the fuck out of Yulene, because Alyssa been plotting on Chrissa's name since what? Day one. Alyssa, as soon as Chrissa was higher, not even influence, was higher on the ranking, she been coming for Chrissa. They haven't had any separate conversations. They haven't been working together. So I knew once it got to the bottom two that Chrissa would be the one out. And basically, Alyssa, strategic queen, dropped some tea on Yulene that basically shifted her entire mind.
Which shouldn't have, I don't believe.
She let Yulene know that Chrissa let her know, even if we're not talking, I still got your back. Mind you, rewind. Chrissa said the same thing to Yulene in the chat with basically the POC. And Yulene was like, she said the same exact thing to me. That's fishy. But then they also go into detail about how Mama Carol has told them both explicitly that I want to keep you safe. I'm the reason why you're still here. I kept you safe as the first influencer. And basically, Yulene and Alyssa both clocked that. So Mama Carol is definitely playing this game hard. She definitely did that for a reason. However, we already knew that Alyssa don't give a damn if that man's a catfish. Because she knows she wants him. She wants it to keep safe. Yeah. So we know where her mind is going.
We also get Yulene says out loud, she's like, of the two, I prefer Chrissa to stay. And then they have this conversation. And then basically at the end of it, Alyssa's like, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Mama Carol is a catfish, but it really don't matter. The fuck? And we leave with Alyssa kind of saying like, yeah, Mama Carol this, but who cares? So when we leave, I know Chris is probably getting cut because Alyssa was the more, I feel, aggressive person in this situation. Like she was gonna get what she want. Mind you, Alyssa said before they went in, she was like, I have a mission and I'm gonna complete the mission. And that's gonna be that.
She said, I'm going with a plan.
And I'm going with a plan. She literally said that. And the plan was executed because Yulene has to go deliver in person the news. And this
mind you, this was Alyssa's decision, but Yulene has to go
deliver it straight to her face. Mind you, Yulene earlier that morning made a chat with Frank and Chrissa. Mind you, Yulene could have definitely been like, Carol gotta go. And did not do that.
The thing is, that would make the most sense for Yulene's game in this situation. Like, let's really analyze it. Yulene, like I just said, has the throuple with Brew and Alyssa. She has the new three with Frank, herself, and Chrissa. That means she's aligned with everyone explicitly in the game except Rachel. But Rachel is an option.
Look, but her and Rachel had a conversation last episode or the other episode where they clicked really fast. Rachel was like, I love Yulene. I love Yulene.
So it wouldn't be an issue to get her back. Nathan want the puss, so you're good with him.
That's everyone in the game. So the best person for Yulene, if she was like a strategic player, would have been to get out Carol. Clearly, she's not that girl. Clearly, she's not that girl.
But see, I won't say that because I do feel like there could be a benefit. Like, for example, Frank would have always chose Chrissa over her, vice versa. Now, Frank, what he says after this, we'll get into, use his number one. I don't know if she was thinking like that. If she was, I turned it down.
I know, right?
I do think there could be some positive that came out of this. So I don't want to say she's dumb, but in my mind, I would have been like, well, Mama Carol can go.
Yeah. And I could see, like, if Alyssa wants Chrissa to go, why would I sit here and argue down for Mama Carol to go when, Chrissa can go. And like she just made the chat with Frank and Chrissa. Like, to clarify, Chrissa was like, I know I never told you, but I've had your back this whole time. That's kind of a hard thing to latch onto. But yeah, boom. So this leads into episode 7. And so we start off, Yulene goes to Chrissa's room. And Chrissa thinks it's her because when Alyssa got into the thing, Chrissa was like, damn, Alyssa's in the thing. Alyssa the influencer. So Yulene walks in, and Yulene's like, hey, what's up? Yeah, by the way, what'd he say? You are cut off. So she tells Chrissa that she should go on. Chrissa's like, damn, I kind of knew it is what it is. And Yulene was like, yeah, by the way, Alyssa kind of convinced me of it. Chrissa's like, I know. Because Alyssa don't like me. I don't think Alyssa likes
And
me.
Yuli's like, really? You think so? It's like, no, she doesn't. And then the thing is, too, like, you definitely see the type of player Yuling is. I don't want to say person. I do think this could be how she is in person, too. But it's definitely, you can tell that when she's in Chrissa's face and talking to Chrissa, she's not bestie with Alyssa. She's throwing Alyssa all the way under the bus, saying it was her decision that she made. I had nothing to do. I am so sorry. Mind you, she's the top influencer. She's number one on the goddamn podium. Literally. And she kicking in this bitch face talking about myself. I had nothing to do with it. It was all Alyssa. Baby, if I was Chrissa, I would have to be like, okay, girl. Like,
no, literally.
I would have had to gag her. I would have had to gag her real quick because, mind you, there's only 2 people who got the power to do it. And you may tell me that
that Alyssa had all the power. What happened?
Like, get out my fucking face, bitch.
I left this conversation feeling like Yuling was just very easily influenced because as we saw, Alyssa made her do what the fuck Alyssa wanted to do. And leaving this, Yuling kind of leaves like, fuck Alyssa. She's not acting like that, but she basically says, well, I'm not gonna let nobody tell me what to do no more. I'm gonna stick by Frank because that's what Chrissa said I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna stick with Frank. And if Frank wants me to save Rachel, I'm gonna save Rachel, and I'm no longer sticking with Alyssa. And it was interesting because it's like, do you think for yourself? No shade, love you, Ma.
No, it was given. We were getting strategic icon, and then it just went, oh god.
Oh god.
The gag is she might still win, but
right? No, really.
Be more conscious of what's going on, sister. Come on.
So Chrissa leaves a message. It clearly couldn't be nothing important left in my message because I didn't write no notes on it.
No, I just remember her being so sad, like her tone of voice. Like Chrissa was really hurt by getting voted out. Like you could tell because like Chrissa had this very just positive, just beautiful energy, and then it was just gray. I hated it. You know, and she really did not deserve. You know, she really deserved to go far, but. I knew as soon as that bitch Alyssa got into the influencer seat that she was getting Chrissa out. It was nothing. Like as soon as she was in that top 2, I was like, girl, Chrissa got Chrissa out because it was too many times that we got Alyssa just girl. They'll be in the morning talking about nothing, talking about breakfast, and then Alyssa was saying. I don't like that Chrissa said. Yeah. I'm going to put Chrissa in top 6 because I think Chrissa, like every time she has some type of say about Chrissa, and Chrissa clocked. Because Chrissa did peep and say, well, she probably just didn't like me. So it is what it is. My sister knew what was going on, and she left like the queen. She came in as power.
No, I don't like that. Oh, God. Okay. So Yuling leaves, and shit, what happens? Oh, Yuling leaves. Chrissa gives her message, and Frank basically is like, damn. Not Chrissa. And this is when Frank gets to work because as you see, you know, we kind of laid out the circle as of now for you. And Frank's number 1 was Chrissa, and he really didn't. His other close ally was Yuling, and Yuling just voted out Chrissa. So at this point, Frank feels alone. He hasn't really locked in Rachel, and clearly Brew, Carol, Alyssa, Nathan, they all damn near sucking each other dick all day, and Yuling is sucking their dick too. So you know. Frank has nobody at this point, so he has to get to work, and so he does. He chats Yuling, and he's like, Yuling, you know, I know you just voted out Chrissa, but girl, I don't give a fuck. You know, I'm hashtag team Yuling, you my girl, and you know, I'm riding it to the end with you, and I always trusted you, and everything you did was smart and good and connected and whatever. And he really like, I know clearly he's not happy that Chrissa got voted out. But the way he spoke to Yuling was so good because Yuling was like, ooh, I'm definitely sticking with Frank. Heidi ho, Frank, you know, like, girl.
Like, he really, really ate that. And it just shows that he's able to separate emotions out of it and go straight game. His number 1 main apple scrapple got voted out, and he went to the person responsible for getting her out. And that's the thing. When I first saw that he was going to message Yuling, I thought, oh, he was going to approach this bitch.
Yeah.
He was going to say, what the hell was that? But no, he came and was like, I'm still team Yuling. We love that. And it's like, baby, I know I wasn't giving all that. But he has to do what he has to do. And then even in the conversation, you could tell it is for strategic means because they're bringing up not trusting Carol. And then Yuling gets into the tea that she got for Chrissa.
Yes. Which was that Carol is telling everybody the same damn thing. And so they get into it, and then Frank, you can see Frank is kind of frantic. I can tell Frank is kind of worried because he just lost his closest ally because he gives no time, and he's like, "By the way, how do you feel about Rachel? I really, really like Rachel. What you think?" And Yuling's like, I like Rachel. Me and Buddy. He was like, "Okay, I'm gonna add Rachel to the chat. What you think?" And Yuling was like, "Okay, you can add it." And then Rachel gets added to the chat. He's like, "Rachel, we working together. What you think?" And Rachel was like, "I mean, cool." But no, basically, that's what happens. It's really fast because Frank is clearly trying to quickly rebuild because his castle just got torn down because he was in a really good place and that got torn down. But he really did do a good job at rebuilding it because he has Yuling's loyalty for real, and Rachel's like, "I'm down for real."
Exactly.
Just like that. That was
So
really
moving forward, he has 2 set votes that are going to rank him probably very high. And literally, because that's the thing, we really got one of the big things to take out of this conversation was when Yuling lets him know that Alyssa said in the influencer decision room that they both kind of how Alyssa and Yuling both expressed to each other that Mama Carol told both of them that they were responsible for keeping them safe. Well, Yuling let Frank know that, so Frank realizes, oh, so clearly Mama Carol been making it seem like basically she had to fight me on keeping them safe. Frank did not take that well at all. But like you said, Frank is definitely playing a great game. I mean, literally, Chrissa went home at 7:00 that morning. He had a newfound 3 at 7:15. Frank was working, okay? It was nothing. He get into the money.
No, for real. I really liked. I was very impressed because it wasn't necessarily. I wasn't sure if he was going to get strategic. But once his numbers went away, he got strategic. I know that's right. So we see that that's a new group, and I think that's going to be an important group. I think that group is going to stay consistently. Well, I don't know because Yuling be all over the place, but as of now, that group is important. Rachel, Frank, and Yuling are a group. And I think Yuling is leaning towards actually working with them versus her throuple, but she still has her throuple. So after that, Brew talks to Carol / John. And they're basically trying to like officialize the fact that they got each other back, like rekindle talk again because they haven't talked in a minute. And it's interesting because, like I said, like this whole time, the same kind of group of people are talking to each other. So they have that conversation and they establish that they have each other back. And then Alyssa chats Nathan, and every time she chats someone, she has to be clear that she's doing it for a reason. So she says, "I'm finna chat Nathan because I don't have enough information on Nathan to know where he stands in the game." So I think Alyssa, with all her notes, has exactly, okay, Brew is cool with Carol, and Brew is cool with Yuling, and I'm cool with Yuling and Brew. I think she has it all written down, like who's where, and she got worried about Nathan, and so she had this conversation to see kind of where Nathan was. And that's when they kind of get into the talk about he's flirting with Yuling. And Alyssa's like, I think I can try to create a brotherly, sisterly relationship and give him advice with Yuling so that we can have a connection.
And then I literally wrote down, she giving him advice on shit that does not matter because Alex does not really want Yuling. It's so sad. And then Alex / Nathan says in this conversation that he wants to solidify a 4 with Alyssa, Brew, and Nathan, Yuling. So that's really important to think about moving forward. Now, clearly, we discussed Yuling probably don't want that, but that's where Alex / Nathan is thinking he wants to go in this game, which is really interesting because I do feel like Alex would rather work with the Rachels and the Franks and that side of the things, but he's playing as Nathan and he thinks Nathan links with these people, so I have to work with these people. I also think, well, we'll get into he makes a relationship with Rachel moving forward, but he definitely should spread out just a bit more. Like he doesn't have to stay in this little box with Mama Carol and them. No, yeah.
All right. So after that conversation, we get 2 new people entering the circle, and that is Everson. So Everson, he's a cruise director or whatever, so he makes entertainment on the cruises. So he's an entertainer, whatever. And he's going to go in as himself. He thinks that he is happy and entertaining and nice and sweet enough to play as himself, so he's going to play as himself. Period. Also, we get Trevor. Trevor is someone from, he's not someone, but his girlfriend from season 2 catfished as him, and she won the game. So he is now coming in, and he's going to be a captain. and he's gonna catfish as Imani, who is his girlfriend's friend. So Trevor is playing as Imani, and Everson is playing as himself, and they both enter the game. So immediately they are told that each of them are going to be hosting a party. And whoever comes to their party just comes to their party, babe. So everyone else gets to choose which party they're going to. So they don't have their. I kind of thought they were going to have their profiles, and that's how they were going to choose, but they don't. They make party invitations. So Amani / Trevor makes his party invitation. He does the Toga party, and then Everson makes his party invitation. He does Under the Sea. So we get to it. We see that literally everybody except for Rachel and Brew goes to Imani / Trevor's party, and then Rachel, Brew, and Everson are literally just in the party alone, and it's just the three of them, and it's awkward because Brew and Rachel are not working together. Like of the sides, I feel like Brew and Rachel are the most opposite of
literally
each other. Like they are not. No. So the conversation doesn't even spark. Like Everson's kind of introducing himself. They look at his thing, and they're like, "Oh, that's very interesting of a profile." And that was literally basically it. They don't talk game because Brew is on one side and Rachel's on the other side, and Everson is just getting to know them, and that was literally it. It was just the three of them. On the other hand, Imani is there, and immediately I want to say 2-3 people are like, "That's a catfish." But anyways, and it was like, "Damn, how did y'all clock?" But no, they literally were clocking them. And we got to see that Frank, Imani really liked Frank. Imani was like, Trevor / Imani was like, I really like Frank, and I really do probably want to link up with Frank. Frank's kind of the guy that I'm looking at. He also had a good vibe about Mama Carol at first. He was like, Mama Carol seems cool or whatever, and that's important. And I think Frank liked Imani too, / Trevor. So that's also important. Boom. Boom. Oh, after that, after the parties or whatever, it kind of ends. And we see that the circle is complete. So what that means is nobody else is coming into the circle. It's closed. One of these people is going to be the winner of the game. And that so then we get into episode 8, which is the last episode. This was a good episode.
This was.
So we started off. And basically, Everson sees Imani for the first time. Imani sees Everson for the first time, and they see everybody else for the first time. Well, Trevor / Imani. And Everson is immediately like, Trevor / Imani is a catfish.
Catfish.
Like this is the third person who said this. They clearly are finna get clocked unless they do something. So Everson makes a chat with the 5 people who weren't in his thing, and Imani makes a chat with the 2 people who weren't in his thing, or whatever. So now they just have chats separate. The opposite, they're meeting everybody. So I have that Frank really likes Everson too. So Frank really likes Everson. He thinks he can bond with Everson. Alyssa is like trying to flirt with Everson, like in public. Like I don't know. It was like a public chat, and Alyssa was like, "Yeah, by the way, can we flirt?" And Everson was like, "I mean, we can flirt." And everyone else is there like, "What the fuck?"
Okay,
like right, they're really doing that. Boom. So when Imani / Trevor talks to Rachel and Brew, he straight up just is like, "What information do y'all have basically for me?" And that's when Rachel's like, "I'm here to play straightforward. I really don't give a damn. So I'm gonna just be for real." So Rachel sends a long paragraph, and this is how you know Rachel and Brew are on different sides because they're literally kind of shading each other. I don't know, it was weird. So Rachel sends in the chat, she's like, "I'm gonna be real with you. Fuck that bitch Carol. Carol literally is a catfish. Everybody knows. She's been playing strategically. She's been doing woo. And it's like a long paragraph of her literally eating Carol up. And she's like, and at the end, she's like, Brew, and I don't give a fuck if you're working with her or not. I don't care. Period. And then she sends it. And it's like, oh, I love Rachel.
Rachel really
I'm not saying Carl right there.
Rachel is the realest bitch in the circle. Point blank, period. We know she's not a catfish, okay? She gonna say what's on her mind, exactly how she feeling. Like, it's the fact that you knew she was gonna come with the come, because she was like, I mean, he wants to hear the truth, so he gonna get the truth. Sorry, Brew.
Literally. And so Brew, and it was interesting because I thought Brew, weak ass, was kind of gonna just sit there. But Brew was like, I'm gonna defend Mama Carol. I'm gonna defend my people, my side. So Brew was like, actually, Mama Carol has been nothing but nice to me. Hasn't done
to
nothing.
You.
Yo, but he was like, Mama Carol has been nothing but nice to me and nothing but sweet to me, but whatever. And and that was that chat, which was interesting. Boom. Brew also kind of says to himself, I don't care that Mama Carol is a catfish. So this is like the third person to say that. So just note that. Well, really, like him and Alyssa said the same way. Boom. After that, there's a data breach. There is a whole data breach. The viruses came.
Yeah.
They're getting virus. They're getting viruses, and it's a panic. So let me skip all that shit. What the fuck? Okay. The what happened was Everson and Trevor / Amani are safe, and their data is good. It's just safe.
Good.
Everybody else's data is at risk. So what that means is that randomly they will be giving another person's photo album, and they are allowed to anonymously ask a question
based on that picture.
Based on the picture of the photo album that they choose. And I have it all written down wonderfully. Right.
I do is I have screenshot of the whole thing.
I know that
we can just run through the first, like who had who and go off of there, right?
So how should I do? You gonna do it? You got it.
I can start with it. So we start off with Frank's picture. Right? And then the person who had Frank was Mama Carol / John. So she pulls up Frank's picture, and their question is, Frank, is this you scheming up another Mr. Nice Guy comment on your way to 150K? And what's his name? Frank was gagged. He was gagged because he was like, I was definitely. What did he say? He was on a cruise or something. Like
I was definitely. What was he at? Damn, I forgot. He was at brunch. He said I was definitely having brunch, but okay. Also, quite immediately, Nathan and Brew are like, that's Mama Carol. But anyways, like they quickly knew who the fuck it was. But they didn't care.
So Frank then replies, he says, child, this me scheming on how to get another Melissa picture at my Sunday brunch. # nice guy in real life. Brew, you're not the only one that can rock a turtleneck. Basically clocking Brew down if he's the one who made it. And then Frank is literally in the room by himself. I had to let Brew know.
Here you go, Brew. Why is he coming for me? What did I do? But I was trying to calm it down.
What did I do? So then, the next picture that gets posted up is Miss Yuling, Queen, and Rachel had Yuling. You know, Rachel definitely give me, Regina George tease. So her little question for Yuling definitely gave Regina George. So she said, "You look like a woman of mystery. But who in the circle would you not tell a secret to?" You know, she definitely want to see what Yuling. She's trying to get Yuling to give up the good, the tea. So Yuling, very diplomatic, very, very strategic. You know, she's a floater, so she basically playing in everybody's face. So she had to keep it cute for the girls. Yuling responds. She says, "I promise there is no mystery to me. I am totally an open book. Unfortunately for everyone in the circle, you have all been subjected to my oversharing. # wear her heart on her sleeve." And everybody was like, girl.
I just want to say, it's giving very much so Pretty Little Liars, very much so Gossip Girl. Like, who are y'all talking to?
Who would you not share a secret to? Da, da, da. So then, child, it's so many people. The next person picture who get put up is Rachel. Now, oh, did I fuck up? Girl, I fucked up.
Alyssa has Rachel.
Alyssa had Rachel.
Alyssa is basically like, I'm finna gag Rachel because I don't know if Alyssa don't like Rachel or what, but she was ready to gag her. Like, she's not feeling loyal to her. She says, how can you pretend to be, she says longer than this, but I summed it up. How can you pretend to be calm and sweet, but you're the first person to try to stir up some mess? Agree. We are all just pawns in your game, right? And Rachel eats that shit up. I don't have Rachel's response.
But I have a snidbit.
Boom.
She says, I'm not a game player, just a whole person. I think the people who know me best know that.
Rachel ate it up. Rachel's response was very eloquent, very laid out, and very straightforward. Rachel's been straightforward the whole time, man. This is just like, I'm a straightforward ass bitch. If you wanted to know, you could buck up, Alyssa. She don't know it was Alyssa. So that was real cute. I love Rachel. Nice. I literally love Rachel. Next, Carol's face is put up. It's a baby picture of Carol. And Yuling had Carol, and Yuling, after being very passive in her response, she was like, well, since this is anonymous, I don't gotta be passive. I'm finna gag Carol real quick. She says, who could hate a sweet face like that? Is that why you chose to play Carol instead of yourself? And John was really gagged. He did not know how to respond at all.
Because she basically straight up was like, you're a catfish. Step to the mic. Step to the mic, Mama Carol. Step to the mic. And so Carol responds with this long paragraph of bullshit. I'll read it. Well, I'll take the compliment. People have been doubting me my whole life, and I've gotten used to rolling with the punches. I understand why some people might think a woman of my age couldn't do this, but I'm here to prove that no matter how old you are, you can still accomplish anything. I'm just going to keep doing what got me here, and that's just being myself. Girl, this politician ass answer.
That was not the question.
Now, is it Carol?
That was not the question, babe.
Or is it John speaking? Because that was way too. That was way too. She tiptoed, danced, Dougie, and Millie rocked all around that damn answer.
Everybody was literally like, okay, girl.
I wouldn't even read it.
After that, Brew pops up and he's on a yacht, and Frank has Brew, and Frank asks, because Frank is anti-Brew, and Frank asks Brew, you can only take your two besties on the yacht. Who you choose? And Frank's like, I'm trying to be strategic. I'm trying to see who he clicked up with. And this was the one that really got the people kind of mad, because Brew was like, well, I'll just take all of you on my yacht because I love all of you. The girls was like, literally, Yuling was like, okay, like, okay. Like, who you, like, everybody was like, who, be for real. Or whatever. So then Alyssa pops up, and Alex/Nathan came up with a complete lie. He was like, I'm going to quite literally lie because I have Alyssa and I don't like that bitch. So I'm finna lie, and I'm finna make her lie seem like she's shady and that she's lying to everybody. She says, Alyssa, it's a picture of her in Italy or whatever, in Europe. Alyssa, in one of our combos, you said you've never been to Europe. How do you explain this? And I didn't like this lie because I felt like you could lie better. I don't know. It is what it is. And Alyssa's answer was bad too. What do I write? I put a very long defensive answer.
Yeah.
She was very defensive. And it's like, babe, calm down.
I'll read it out. That is such an odd thing to say because I am such a notorious note taker. And I can tell you for a fact, I have never talked to anybody about travel. I have been to Italy a few times to see family. And this particular trip, I traveled to Rome with my ex-boyfriend. You can see him in the reflection of my sunglasses. I'm glad there wasn't any, in all caps, real negative things to say about me because this is just a blatant lie, crying, laughing emoji. My thing is, were you going to give them your social security, home address, utility bill, phone number? Like I was at the ISP address of the Rome capital where like, girl, you know, time, dates, like
all she had to say was, why you lying? And that would have been it. Like, she really did all of that. And if I, like, that's the thing. I don't think the question was good, but if I saw Alyssa response, I would have like, that bitch lying.
That bitch lying.
Like, for real.
You see, like, that's the thing. I definitely would have said just immediately that Rachel, Carol, and Alyssa lying because anytime you see a long ass paragraph,
you liar. Purr. And that's how I feel. Because if you was telling the truth, you would have just laughed and moved along. Now, this one, Brew, I'm gonna have to give. You know how we was wavering? Is Brew dumb or is he a mastermind? I might have.
He might be a mastermind
because this was my favorite question. I was like, "Ooh, he gagged the girls." So it's a picture of baby Nathan. Well, it is Nathan, but it's out. Whatever. baby Nathan, young Nathan, and he's carrying a big ass pack of golf clubs, and he's on a golf course, right? And he's not young enough to not know what golf is. That nigga is like, 7 in that picture. So he says, Nathan, looks like you're a golfer. How many shots under par do you need for an eagle? Now, the reason this eats is because every other answer you can just not answer or say whatever, and you won't seem like a liar. This answer he has to answer, or they're gonna literally catch his ass.
His ass.
Mind you, he did not know. He did not know the answer. Neither did I. Me neither. I would have lost. I would have definitely been like,
I would have been gagged.
No, I was thinking, I was like, honestly, I would have just admitted it. I would have just been like, you know what, y'all, honestly, I'm a catfish. No, listen, I would have been like, honestly, y'all, I'm a catfish. I was catfishing as my cousin. He passed away, and I really just wanted to. This was my last remembrance of him. Like, because you gotta throw a Hail Mary, bro. Like,
mind you, imagine. Wait, come imagine. The question is.
How many
The question is, how many shots under par do you need for an eagle? Imagine someone says a paragraph about how they really died. This is my last way to remember them as my catfish.
I literally thought, because look, you're caught. No, because if he answered that shit wrong, he was caught. So I was like, bro, if it was me, I would have just had to fess up. But he accidentally answers it right. Mind you, he took 30 minutes.
Start there.
I would have been like, is he Googling it? Like, what are you doing?
Even if he got the right answer, I'd be like, that nigga lied.
No, really.
Why is it you 45 minutes to get the answer?
Bro, I would have fucked that up. But he got it right, and basically Brew was like, you got it right. I'm working with you now. And it's like, damn, nigga, you just want to work with everybody. After that, is it over? It's over.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And this is when Amani / Trevor and Everson get the ability to, or they get told that they will have the ability in the future to hand out, what the fuck are they called? It don't matter, safety. And that whoever they don't hand out safety to is going to be at risk.
The antivirus protection plan.
Right, bitch, whatever. They were trying to be real cute with this one. Just say they safe. So that they'll be later on able to save people, and that whoever's not safe will get blocked. They don't get into detail. We don't really know what's going to happen. Boom. After that, Brew chats Nathan because clearly his pickle was tickled when he found out that he knew about what is it, baseball, whatever that golf. So he messages Nathan. He's like, "Oh my god, I see that I know golf, so now I can tell you my whole entire game." So basically, he was like, "Frank gotta go," and Nathan was like, "You know what? Frank can go," and he was like, "Yay!" So now Brew and Nathan are really like locking it up because they both agree that Frank can go. And then Brew starts giving Nathan information, and Nathan is kind of good. Alex is kind of good at getting information from people, especially when he gets these opportunities because he starts asking questions. So Brew tells him, he's like, by the way, I was in a group chat with Paul and Frank round 1, and Frank blocked Paul, and that's when I knew Frank was not to be trusted. And Nathan was like, Frank is not to be trusted, I see. And he also asked, Nathan starts to ask, he's like, is there anybody else that you kind of don't trust? And Brew says Rachel. And this one, Nathan was like,
too far.
Right. You did a lot, but Frank, we can get out Frank. But clearly Nathan is, him and Rachel, they should good. They were disagreeing. After that, Rachel chats Frank, and they really start discussing kind of like the game that they just had earlier on, where they were talking about, all the answers and stuff. And clearly Rachel and Frank's bond is increasing. What I noticed about Frank is that when somebody likes Frank, they like Frank. Chrissa was down for Frank. Rachel, she's down for Frank. So
Ling
is down for Frank. So it's really solidifying that Frank has his minions coming. and that Rachel and Yuling are gonna be his minions. It's hard to not put it that way because he has the most, gravitational pull towards him. But Frank has Rachel now, and he's already had Yuling, and now he has Yuling, so it's really like solidifying. So this conversation got a little weird. Everson and Trevor / Imani talk. Why are they flirting? Y'all, they were literally flirting. And okay, it is. I'm not even gonna get it. Because Trevor is playing as Imani, and Everson is himself.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Trevor was like, I know Everson we can try to flirt. So he flirts with Everson. Everson's like, I'm feeling Imani.
Oh no.
And so, right. Everson likes girls. So Imani anyway, so they're like, let's talk about these people who we're gonna save. So they talk about Rachel first. They're like, let's talk about Rachel. Basically, both of them like Rachel. They talk about Frank. Both of them like Frank. So when it comes to analyzing the cast or whatever, it kind of makes me feel like, okay, Everson and Imani clearly are gravitating towards Frank and Rachel, which is kind of like already a side. And so if Frank, Rachel, Everson, and Imani are all linking up, and Yuling is with them, then that's a lot of people on that side. You know what I'm saying?
That's a lot of people.
So that's kind of what it's getting at.
And then that's kind of all kudos to Frank. I mean, making a good, lasting impression because Imani keeps Trevor / Imani keeps reiterating the fact that they love Frank, they love his energy. He's the type of guy they want to work with, and he feels like if I can keep Frank safe first, because they have to choose someone to be safe. If we can choose Frank to be safe first, then he's someone that's going to have my back there on in the game, which I think is definitely a fact. Yeah, Frank, it has been proven to be trustworthy, I fear.
Definitely true. Everson isn't necessarily like full in on Frank because Everson kind of feels like when they were talking about Frank has a Mr. Nice Guy act. He's like, I like Frank a lot, but I'm just gonna be slightly wary on that. But okay, they talk about Mama Carol, and Everson has sympathy for Mama Carol. He's like, everybody's just assuming she's a catfish, but she says she's gonna be, authentically herself, and I feel the same way. So,
Okay,
I really don't, blah 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 blah. And Imani and Trevor is like, that bitch a catfish, but okay, moving along. So Imani, Trevor, and them and Everson decide that they're gonna save Frank. So we get to the decision. They're typing, and Frank's name pops up. I have here the whites are mad. So what happened was
wait, I have here black men safe.
No, the girls were literally. Alyssa was like, oh, Brew was like, damn. Mama Carol was like, fuck. The whites were mad. I fear. Like, I don't know how else to say it.
It was over. They knew it was over after that.
It was over. And Yuling was like, yes, Frank. I know that's right. Rachel was like, I know that's right, yo. So after that, we get to find out that Frank, you can pick the next person to be safe. So now we know it's going to be a chain of safety. At that point, I have my faves. My faves are Frank and Rachel. I'm like, ooh, I hope he picked Rachel and not Yuling because we don't know necessarily who Yuling is going to pick. Da 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 da.
Exactly.
So Frank picks Yuling. He's like, I'll either pick Rachel or Yuling. He's like, I'm scared if I don't pick Rachel, she won't get picked. But Yuling is my girl, and I want her to, he has a longer lasting relationship. He ends up picking Yuling. At this point, Yuling could either pick Alyssa, who she has a really good relationship with, or Rachel, who she knows Frank wants her to pick. So she's kind of like deciding between the two. I think her decision came down to the fact that if she picks Rachel, Alyssa might get picked later on. But if she picks Alyssa, Rachel's going to go home.
And
that's kind of what she thought.
But she also stated she doesn't want to pick Alyssa necessarily because if Alyssa gets picked, Alyssa will likely pick Mama Carol, and she didn't want that. She mentioned after that conversation with Alyssa, and after that conversation later on with Chrissa and Frank, her biggest number one target is Mama Carol. So even though she's cool with Brew and she's cool with Alyssa, she said, I at the end of the day can't risk Mama Carol being safe. And it's like it's interesting because, like I said, at the beginning of this, she started saying she trusts Alyssa the most, and at
Mhm.
the end, she leaving that bitch the pack of wolves. So at the beginning of the first 4 episodes, she in the throuple. At the end, she with Frank and
She in
Rachel.
another
So
throuple with a whole other.
clearly, you Link is just flipping back and forth, and baby, when she chooses Rachel,
Mm-hmm.
Alyssa Brew
They're
shook
fuming.
because they have been talking in this struggle, flirting down for like
Mm-hmm.
we don't know how long this should be in for. Let's just assume days at this point.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they're thinking this is a true allegiance. You just chose a side.
Mm-hmm.
Point blank. Period. You just chose a side.
You just chose a side, and like honestly, she just chose a side. Like essentially, rank Rachel her, and if they can pull in Everson and Imani, but then again, that's a strong side, babe. That's the numbers because one of Brew Carol, we'll get to it. So you
And
lean
nobody else coming in.
picks Rachel, and Rachel has that new like final two deal with Nathan and Nathan slash Alex. But Rachel's like, I could either pick Nathan or I could pick Alyssa or I could pick whoever. She doesn't know, but she ends up picking Nathan slash Alex. Nathan slash Alex picks Brew, and they've had a good relationship. They just had a really good conversation about golf and shit, whatever the fuck that was. So the final two people are Carol slash John and Alyssa, which is interesting because those are the two most strategic people this whole damn season. Like they've had a lot of impact.
And it's also interesting because it's like Alyssa had put in such great work, and then I guess it's just the name of the circle game. Like it can flip like that. You know, she wasn't in any power anymore. I mean, it makes you think. Now that I'm learning how the circle works. Like when she was the influencer, why weren't you talking to Frank? You didn't talk to Chrissa at all. You didn't make any relationships out of the relationships that you made. So when newer people coming in, Frank was able to get to them first, and she got fucked, and she's probably going home. Because honestly, I think he's gonna choose Mama Carol. If we have to like kind of, you know, guess who he's gonna pick, I think he's gonna go with Mama Carol because I just feel like there were so many moments where, for no reason, Brew is just like, I trust Mama Carol. We know we just saw him defend Mama Carol earlier to Rachel. Like he really, really likes Mama Carol. Now he flirts a lot with Alyssa, and Yuling did just turn on the throuple. But who knows? Maybe that makes him go into Mama Carol's arms even more. You never know. I know Alyssa, she definitely get her claws into the girls, but I feel like if you're thinking of trust, I can see him being like, I trust Mama Carol way more than I trust Alyssa.
Which makes sense because back then when it was like who's the most trustworthy, Alyssa got no votes for that. She didn't get anything. And it makes sense because the way Alyssa has been navigating all of these episodes, no one has ever Alyssa has never been one-on-one really, really someone's number one. You know, Frank has a lot of number ones. You know, Brew and Nathan just became number ones. She's never just been number one. She's been in a group. She's been in a throuple, and it's like, oh, we're in a throuple, so we're all together. That's cool. And Mama Kara used to really like Alyssa, but shit, it's Mama Kara and Alyssa at the bottom, so it's over for her. So that's how we leave off the last episode. We don't know whether Alyssa or Mama Carol goes, and we're just gonna have to see, baby.
I'm honestly hoping it's Mama Carol that goes. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think it's Alyssa. I think Alyssa's going. I hope it's Mama Carol because honestly, I do feel like, you know, John, baby, you had a good run. It was fun to see you, but Alyssa kind of lapped you in the strategic category. I want to see her kind of continue to kind of eat the girls up because she's kind of like the antagonist of the season.
Yeah.
I want to see her continue on in the game, especially if the circle is finished. We're not going to get any more new people. I think she's one of the more dynamic people because out of the people here, I'm definitely rooting for Frank. I'm rooting for Rachel. I'm rooting for you. I don't really care for Everson. I like Trevor. But that's really it. And Alyssa, if she stays, if Alyssa goes, then
then what? So yeah, shit. That's that. After this, it'll be what? Only 8 people left because Chris is out, and then one of them are going to be out. So it's only going to be 8 people left for the last 5 episodes to go. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Who ends up at the end?
The finale is like, I think it's like 5 to 6 people.
Is it? I was just gonna say I don't know how the end.
I skipped to I'm gonna see after this podcast for sure, but I saw like the finale of last season. It had like 4 to 5 or 6 people were standing there together, so it's multiple people at the end. So I would say like next episode she probably goes home. 2 more people probably go home, 2 or 3, and then it's the finale.
Yes. And with that being said, that's it.
We're good. We're done.
Period. This was really exciting. This is really nice. I really like the circle. Or whatever. Period. Y'all go ahead. Follow us at T Reality Kingdom on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, retweet our stuff. Do what you gotta do. You know what the fuck I'm saying? And catch us next week where we're gonna be talking about the circle. Catch us tomorrow when we do talk about X on the Beach. If you like the challenge, catch us next week. We're gonna talk about the challenge. We're gonna start our Big Brother off-season podcast next week. We are also gonna be covering Survivor on Wednesdays next week. Tune in a little bit later when we start covering BB24. A little bit after that, we're gonna be doing Survivor 43, then Survivor 44, then Survivor 44.
Tell your friends. We're doing these things. We're doing it. Share.
We're doing the thing.